mechanic at 13 years old.
Well, paid mechanic. Yeah.
Paid mechanic.
Yeah. This guy, Locke Cameron, through Mike McCaughey and Quinn, we would just be hanging out at this shop on Saturdays for the group rides and mountain biking along the Niagara Escarpment. And Locke Cameron, he had this shop called Wheels of Motion. And they had frames. He would do like the custom builds where it was road frames, like Colnagos or Concords, things like that. They would come, in the crates, like from, and that's when you built a bike from the scratch up and you'd choose your group set. He did custom bikes. This was in 92, I guess, 91, 92. And you do custom builds. So it would be like Shimano 600 full build or whatever, headset, seat post, everything. It was Shimano, like the whole bike area is just like so tight and tidy. But I did a lot of models and things like that growing up. And so I was fine with the paint. And I was doing like the pins. He would paint in the lugs and things like that to customize the bikes. And so that's how I started. And the next thing you know, I was like, we're behind. So I learned how to chase the threads for the bottle cage. And then next thing I know, I'm facing and chasing BBs and head tubes, reaming them out, and then learning how to lace wheels. And by the end of the summer, I could build a complete bike. My buddy Mike McCaughey's up front working sales. They sold Klein, Trek, Kona, Specialized, all those first generation Treks with the one arm, they're all hanging up downstairs like broken. But yeah, like to be around that sort of stuff, building like XTR bikes, like XTR 8-speed, like holy fuck, you can't believe it, right? And like when that came up, but like it was like 7-speed, the nice blue 7. Then I remember SRAM came around. This dude came around. He's on a slingshot with X-Ray 800s, and that was I was just tech from there on. I just was into it.
Yeah. And you worked at a bunch of different shops in Ontario, and then you actually went to school for 4 years, got 3 different diplomas, one of them being like Parks and Forest. And,
that was the smoothest transition to get into what I wanted. It was eco and adventure tourism. It just seemed like the exciting. I was challenged out of school if I wanted to take what I did for fun and make that into a job. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. And my buddy Mike McKay's dad, who was a high school principal, was like, straighten me out. He's like, dude, like, why would you not want to do what you want? Like, of course, do what you want to do. So I followed it out, and that led down to a whole other lane I never thought I'd go down. But
and you also went in the winter. You ran sleds with dogs.
Yes, for Siberians, Huskies
for like a decade.
For a decade.
How many dogs at once?
Well, when we were training. When we started building a team for like Iditarod and Yukon and like Quest and things like that, we were running strings of 20 dogs behind a 4-wheeler in the fall. I wonder how much
horsepower that is.
Well, it's 5-to-1. So yeah, 5 dogs is a horsepower.
No way.
So you're running, 4 horsepower on but it's many paws make light work.
Yeah, lots of traction.
Oh yeah, it's insane. Like I said, the owner, I met those guys.
My grandfather,
we've talked about this.
Delivered mail,
yeah,
to the Arctic Circle and back.
So cool. So did Tommy Chong's dad. He had a trap line. We met him over dogs as well. Tommy Chong signed my coat.
Chong.
Yeah, he signed my jacket lapel. We were like went down. We'd go to breakfast television here and now
you guys bonded over
to prop up this dog sled race that we host. He was the other guest that morning. So I'm fucking sitting there having Maxwell coffee with fucking Tommy Chong on a breakfast show. And he had just got out of prison for his weed shop or something like that, for having bongs or something like that. And so is in federal, Canadian prison. When you're there, if you don't have your diploma, you have to work towards it. And so he was literally just doing grade 10 math. And that was right when Canada was standardizing all the math or whatever, and so they were going through all these questions, like, because he'd just done it. It's like, so what's this? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, man, and finally he's just like, I don't know. All I know is conversions, man, pounds to kilos. And I was like, yes. Oh my! And so he came out, hung out with the dogs, and then he signed the lapel of my jacket. He's like, Chong, and like just writes Chong on it. Then he's like, what was your name? I was like, Fraser. He's like, Fraser. Writes my name underneath.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's cool that we have that in common.
Totally.
It was just a strange thing that I never thought I would get into, but
the acceleration you feel from a bunch of...
And it was a rescue kennel. The dogs were indoor. They weren't on chains. They were on radiant floor heating, crowned. If they didn't want to run, they didn't have to run. If they wanted to live on their own, they had their own pen. If they wanted their buddies, there was groups that went out and could play in the yard. The original 40 dogs, when I met them, we were just trying to get the roof on the kennel as the 40 dogs arrived. And those dogs could all go out in the yard together. You could have 40 of them running around the woods and no problem. You could leave them all day. But then there's like other groups. There's 17 recess groups because you could never let the dogs figure out their alpha hierarchy. You could, but no point. And so some groups were just 2 dogs or brothers. You put anyone else with them, they'd kick the shit out of it. And so you just put them out, they just beat up each other.
So you're doing that in the winter, and then you're riding bikes in the summer. You ran a bike shop for an ex-NHL player for a while there.
Yeah.
And then you came out and did like the Trans Rockies. You were a wrench for the Trans Rockies out west.
Yeah, I met this.
And that led into the BC bike race.
It happened all so fast. It was literally working at the shop.
And you became the head mechanic at the BC bike race
from
for
the
a number
beginning.
of years.
2007, we started that.
First year.
That. That's when I met him over the phone, James, and it was through Brent
from
Martin.
Obsession Bikes.
Yeah, Obsession Bikes, and Brent
Shop
Martin.
on Lonsdale.
Yeah, Brent Martin needed a mechanic. He was
Ex-president of the Riders.
That's right.
An owner, founder.
Yeah, just another
ex-Canadian champ, cross-country racer.
Oh my God, like
the first Canadian champion cross-country rider.
Brent Martin in the Czech Mitt, like all those big ones.
Big races. So you're wrenching a bunch of different people's bikes. How many people were in those races back then?
Oh, that actually, well, it was actually quite a small group. I think it was 125. It's like
in the Trans Rockies.
Trans Rockies were big. Yeah, those were 600, 700, 800.
Yeah.
And so those I was coming out. I got hooked up with my friend Hazen Simpson. We raced Eco Challenge. He needed another member for their team there in Eastern Outdoors out of New Brunswick, Crushers, and like they do Eco Challenge, all this sort of stuff. And they had a member that couldn't make it to a race, so he invited me, and we did this adventure race. And then he put me in touch when he started doing Trans Rockies. I was coming out, so I was wrenching with Hessler and Marty Lazarski and all these funny stories. But that led to being put in touch and being trustworthy enough to come out over the phone, drive across the country in a
with Obsession
35-year-old car, pulling a trailer, and then and then the rest is history. So yeah, this is year 14 with that one.
So there's 600 people at these BC bike races.
Yeah,
for a number of years now. Up until COVID hit, and missed last year, and it's back now in the interior. But 600 people,
last 2 years, yeah,
and
it's
you
insane.
guys,
yeah.
There's 600 racers. They can come in and purchase parts, and you guys fix their bikes overnight so they can keep their 7-day stage race going to get a belt buckle at the end if they do every day. And you're fixing. There's one right there. You're fixing a lot of bikes per night. You got the music going on, the lights going on.
I'm not fixing a lot of bikes.
Well,
I do. Yeah, maybe you could get 3 or 4 done. I do the weird.
You got
ones.
a whole team there.
You're right.
About how many mechanics at once? Sometimes?
Yeah, at peak we had 15, 16 staff, probably like 10 or 11 benches, and then also we'd have like hotshots that would just show up, like help out in the different communities, like friends that would come out and just come out and get you things or put food in your mouth or whatever. Because at that point, like
you got to have all the bikes ready by the mornings for them to hit their start.
And that's just it. It's an intense, wicked, creative opportunity. You're working on the best bikes in the world. When some of these top ones, like stuff that you've never seen, is like just the juiciest XC machines, and then like the guys, the guys you're rooting for, the bike most deemed likely to fail, there's just so many fun traditions that go along with that event.
What parts do you hate seeing coming in? What was
lefties?
Always, oh yeah,
lefties,
and there was always they give it to like the
it's just like who makes a
new guy?
Like they'd rip the line out, on a crash or wherever, and then the fork would be locked out because there's no hydraulic pressure on the poppet. And so it was like we were making like keyways, making mechanical. Just so many, and just repairing for carbon repair. Just went from auto body fiberglass through to now we're just basically using cast, like waterproof cast material. It's military tech for shot up carbon rotors where they could land, dip it in the water, and wrap. Same stuff you get on your arm. At the hospital now.
Yeah,
and so you could wrap it up and they can take off and cure on the flight. After they got the prop shot up, and so you. Yeah, you can. It really makes the bike ugly and probably voids the warranty. But they finish the race, and it's those kinds of stories that are super fun. It's super. And then when you do it for really powerful events like Ride to Conquer Cancer and things like that, and you get an opportunity to make sure that this man finishes this ride, for his family members, his wife, that he must finish on that particular bike. And it's 35-year-old, 40-year-old Peugeot that he's just blown 12 of the fucking 18 spokes in the back wheel. It's like, yeah, I know you got 10 more K to go, but like, figure it out. Turns out that guy was like the largest single fundraiser, like 6-digit fundraiser for this event, got a cool card from him. He came and bought a bike, I think, at the shop. Just like stories like that. It's just fun.
That's amazing. Powerful. Well, I know you fixed my bike, to keep me going in the BC Bikers doing what I do and filming all the key
show up
sections
with like a frame and a box of parts. It's like, we're insane. There's a fucking sea of bikes to fix. It's like
help me.
After dinner, and then while we're trying to build it, you come and roast me like 12
a bunch of jokes.
Jokes. Just light up a couple jokes and then
roasting the crew. And some dad jokes, some dirty jokes.
Oh, but it always
late night.
Yeah, well, that's when
you guys go all night. Like
that's when we work best. I think that's why we really hit it off all the time. Is because we'd be up at 3 a.m. You'd come over and just spark the energy back up. You'd all just be falling off the end after 42, 52, 62 hours straight. Because while the racers were out racing, you had to pack up this 40 by 40 shop, full infrastructure, into a truck and then drive it
to the new location.
Set up just in time for the bike so that you just finished working on it. Come back. Like, you work on the same bike twice in a day. Like
in a different place.
Yeah, you're finishing up at 6 a.m. You're like, oh, like where? You get the bike out. You're like, okay. And then it's right back. You're like, okay, do it again. Yeah. Work great. Do it again.
Oh man. Yeah, it's insane seeing you guys all go to town and keeping everyone in the race, and people are very thankful, and like,
oh man,
you've got like tons of parts there that
it's just like, that's just trying to figure all that. Like, that's just Topher and I tonight, just probably go back and keep pulling parts, just trying to think of problem solvers and
what are people gonna need?
What are you gonna need? How do you guess? So what, especially when it was 600 riders, what they're gonna break,
and not only just like current bikes, but you've got some older bikes in there too, and you need parts.
Throw in the mix, throw in a couple of different hub standards and BB standards and rotor standards and mount standards and sizes and adapters and fidgets. It's mind-boggling. So you just have to stay calm. I mean, I just have the best group of people, and it's family. Like, it's the same. That's like the family I ran dogs with. It was the same crew would come back, and that's how I knew it's a great system, a great kind. And same with Obsession. It's the same crew, same people coming back through, like. Same with all these events, BC Bike Races, and our team. It's like
you got a bunch of different mechanics, and people are good at different things. So you got like specialists on this and that.
Cool. Wheelhouse stuff. Yeah, guy just doing suspension, and so that's what's really exciting with the big group is this crazy energy and flow, all for hundreds of
600 riders
and hundreds of hours just
Oh yeah.
So it's a rush. It takes a month to come down from that event. That is a really wild one. Just to get back into.
It is wild. I remember one night, it was about 3:30 in the morning, and it was ready for the last big day at Squamish.
Oh, in Squamish, yeah.
Day 6.
Because that's the last night of wrenching, basically.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the next day you got to pack the bike or wash it for it.
But you were like, I'm gonna come up and ride tomorrow. I'm gonna put together a banana bike. And you had this.
You were gonna ride, yeah.
And you did. You put it together from like 3:30 to 6:30. You were there, and I was on the side of the course cheering people on, and then I was gonna do some video and stuff. And then
my buddy Charlie towed me up on a Honda 50.
Yeah.
And met you.
And what was this bike?
That
you rode.
I was tree playing, I think, and then came down to the city. It was 98, and I ended up in Vancouver, and just like, whoa. And so I just started spending, like, you make $400 a day or whatever tree playing, if you did well. So I was just dropping 400, like, Mountain Hardware, Core Flace, like $400, that's a day. And then I found this banana bike at Denman Bike Shop. It was a Dealey, like the Dealey boys, like the Harley dealership. The boy, I guess they were building frames or something. So,
and it had,
it had 20-inch wheels. It had the single red bass boat red seat. I keep pulling it off, sorry. It had it was just it had the low rider fork that swept way out. So you go and the bars you'd turn and the whole bike would swing. It was like a swing bike, but just the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so over the years we'd bring it to BC Bike Race, and then sure enough it just would turn it, carving it around. It's a
Frankenstein.
It's super fun. The seat, your weight's right above the rear axle. And so it's just super fun to whip and carve. And so now it's got a Gervin on it. It's got a 3-speed rear hub, and we put on so I souped it up for that ride. I was like, okay, I need like some solid cranks, and
you've got a fleet of sick mountain bikes, and then you got to the top of that, and we rode half Nelson
on a banana bike,
mullet banana bike.
Did it
have coaster brakes?
with a coaster brake.
Coaster brake. A
Gervin Vector 2 on the front, and we were passing racers.
Passing racers.
On the inside. And you filmed it and put it on Instagram, and it was like...
It was one of my biggest videos of the year.
It was so... Well, I think most of those views were mine.
It was
yeah,
sick.
get it.
You were hammering it. You blew off the track at one point, and then you came running out of the woods and grabbed the bike, full run, hopped on it in a running leap like Zorro, and you're off again. And I'm like, we better go again.
Holy.
It was sick. And
that kind of stuff. There's just lots of... Squamish really was just such a playground. We went up, we did a flying V there. Kenny and Kevin and I, Margus took us up. We did a flying V down the apron on the Chief. Just lots of really fun times. And so
and you got to be stoked for the people that finished the BC bike race, and they couldn't have done it without you. And you've saved the day through the night and kept these people racing. It's some of those powerful, wrenching moments, I'm sure.
For sure. And some of the most the highs and the lows. So you definitely have situations too where your heart just sinks when you just can't come up with a solution. You feel crippled or whatever. But there's always an answer. It's like, okay, we'll just fine. Take this brand new Spark. Whatever we're bringing to you. It's like, fine, ride that. Okay, fine. I can't fix it. Just take this new bike.
Yeah.
That'll be $200.
So from 2007 to the present, doing the BC bike race, head mechanic, 600 riders, in each race.
Holy.
Insane. But at the same time, you've been wrenching for Anthill. Darcy Wittenberg, your sons are friends.
Yeah, they went to daycare.
You've been riding for the collective, doing stuff for the collective.
OG
crazy grips and camera mounts and
it was
rotating rooms and a bunch of crazy things.
Oh god, yeah, that was with
another crew. You've worked with some of the biggest riders in these movies, like Stevie Smith and Brett McDonald and Brendan Faircloth and Tommy G and Matt Hunter and Vanderam and Brett Reeder and Carson Storch, Matty Miles, the Coast Gravity Park guys, and Finn Isles, Magus Manson. Doing all these crazy things. Like, what are some of these things that you've done? Some of the bike fixes and MacGyvers with these guys. Like, where do I even start? Like,
that was the start with all that. It was just when they were beginning with Unreal. I think they'd filmed the Wyoming set, and they were filming up on the ice cap.
Aggie.
With Aggie there, and that was it. Darcy.
Spike tires.
He sent out he got a call through on the sat phone. They were up there. They wanted to continue. They needed another frame, and he knew after us meeting at one of our son's birthday parties and like, oh yeah, I've been to bikes too. You're into bikes? Like, little did I know they were doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so they needed to figure out a solution. So the solution was here I've been working for myself for 3 months. I was doing like whatever, like Dana hub overhaul, like out of my wheelhouse, working on big surf vans or just anything I could do for work. And it turned out that Mitch Scott put me in touch with the boys down at the Cove, and I end up driving down the city and walking out with the last medium black and green Kona carbon operator, right wind carbon downhill bikes. I was just like, I'm walking out of the Cove, like the original, like the Cove with a brand new, like, what is happening right now? Stripped it down in my shop, and then up to Pemberton and flew up to an ice cap. My buddy, that's where I met Butters and hung out. Yeah, it was a funny night. We couldn't fly in that night, so we ended up at Pemberton Fest, and our buddy took his went for a what did we watch? Outcast or something like that from the hills, and then flew into an ice cap. And I brought my work stand. Not without
and Aggie's riding down the glacier.
Yeah, with no feet or anything. I just stuffed it in the snow, and I did a front triangle swap in like an hour or something like that. And got them out riding and filming again, and then the rest is history. I just have carried on with these guys.
These different movies, and
it was the same price to bring the helicopter back up and take me home again, or just stay and help dig and hang out.
Yeah,
and so drink beer on a. Yeah.
And you're a good man to have around for sure, like, because unforeseen things happen, and then sometimes it takes unforeseen solutions for unforeseen situations, and some of the creative stuff, like some of the camera mounts and stuff, like, or even the special effects, like the falling dirt.
Oh yeah,
in Unreal, you were involved with that.
Billinghurst's dream realized, on
the chairlift, and they're getting ready to go to the bike park, and there's falling dirt, like powder skiing. It was. How did that
follow me or one of them where Adam Billinghurst is like quoted and saying, how he wished that it snowed dirt. if dirt fell like powder
Yeah.
at Whistler. And so that was in this concept with the Unreal.
That was Vanderham and Matty Miles and Finn Isles.
Yeah, that's right. And so they we thought Thomas Effects just down the street here was doing this Cine snow. It was basically it's potato. It was just potato blown, aerated, and would float and look like snow. And then so they've used it in all kinds of films. But the guys at Anthill had them try and dye it to a brown. First bit that came out was green, kind of had the dye off a little bit. This stuff was brown, but when it got wet, it went neon pink.
Oh god!
So it's so funny. They're like just hosing the bike park down with this stuff. And it wasn't cheap either. You know, pretty expensive per box. Hundreds of boxes of this stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just painting, and then it rains, you can't film, and then all of a sudden you can't film because the whole ground's pink as the stuff starts breaking down. And then mulch, we just were using fire hoses to wet the trees, and then mulch, leaf blowers mulching the peat moss and blasting the trees to coat it and building up the berms to make that effect. But it's everything in the line of sight of the camera. It's pretty funny because you'd see everything else be green and normal, and then just be this dirt alley.
Hollywood, baby.
Oh, it was so fun. It was like hanging out in trees out of the shot. It was just neat.
What about Cam McCall with the magnet mount for the helmet?
Yeah, action cam. Yeah, we're shooting with the Sony action cams, and we had some like bigger projects, small little vignettes and things throughout the year, and then we had these bigger projects where we got to go out and do some more fun things. And this was just some creative camera mounts using this little
magnet, so that you were like
oh yeah,
Darcy like flying.
That's right.
He was hang glider.
He was doing his hang glider,
and he's filming him with the hang glider.
Well, and this is the stuff that he shot, Collective and their snowboarding videos with Alterna, and then he would hang with a real camera, a film camera, reel to reel, and then sliding on a hang glider like a sugar glider. And then he's using his hand, and then he puts it on Cam McCall. Yeah, so then the shot continues from POV with the camera attached to his head. It was a quick disconnect off the helmet. I made a mount off the bolts for the visor, and then just a pattern like an M and a W with magnets on those faces, so it the magnets would line up every time, just right in the same spot, and it would clip in. And so we could do these. We call it the out of body experience, the out of body camera, where he would be you'd film him coming down and around the corner, and Darcy, just the last time as he was to go off a drop, would just clip it onto his helmet, and then his POV, or vice versa. He would, big jump, and Darcy would swoop in and grab it off his head. And next thing you know, it's a camera as you pull away. It's like this kind of cool out of body experience. Crazy. And then a monorail, we built a little monorail out of an RC like racing drone that was kind of neat. Monorail. Yeah. What about the glider with Matt Hunter? Didn't you guys nail the first shot? That was the curse. Yeah, the concept was that he had this glider and he would throw it and film himself in this the camera would kind of soar in this glider like an eagle down the valley, follow him on these Kamloops classic lines. And the curse was, so here I'm in the bushes with the RC, it's a glider, and controlling the servos to fly down towards him. But no engine, it's gliding. No engine, it is gliding for sure. But then 400 feet away to try and hit someone in the torso, it's it's a long way to look. I felt pretty dangerous actually, like drone me up. Let's go. Yeah. But then get lock. And so he caught it, and it was just like, whoa, we made it work. Throws it, rides, and films him, and then he stops at the bottom and catches. Yeah, the camera catches him, like shows him dropping his bike chain around, like whoa. The first time. And so then it was days of just. You saw the outtakes, it's just tree, like snap broke trying to tape the thing together. We had 2 of them just to try. Anyways, the Calypso. Dig water, boy. The Calypso. Don't stop till you hit the water. What about the hangman camera setup, like that giant gimbal arm, but all done out off the side of an electric bike? It's funny. It's so funny when you stew on these ideas. Who was that being filmed in that? Well, that was all those, like that was a segment for a movie called Return to Earth, and we another Billinghurst. Every time we'd be filming, he's like, Darcy, when are we going to Hawaii? When are we going to go? That kind of thing. So it happened, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to, to come. He had a little one on the way and missed out on that one. But the idea, the concept was this a one shot again, but with lots of riders in and out, party line, but a chromoly frame on that. Well, yeah. So that was the idea originally, was to mount this onto a motorcycle, the camera, the head tube. So I was trying to figure out. I had on my Honda has a hollow steer tube, and so I was trying to extend the frame of the motorcycle out ahead with a piece of pipe, schedule that then you could attach your floating arm and then the camera, and it ends up being quite heavy and bulky. But also, I mean, inherently with a Honda, there's clack, 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 all the valves, and that all comes through. It all comes through to the shot. Yeah, somehow it's gonna. And so you work to isolate all that, and then it was like kind of dawned like a week before we left for Hawaii, and I was kind of like, what bike? We don't even know what bike we're gonna have there. We're trying to get an e-bike. It's the steer tube the same. Like, I'm gonna make all this shit and fly it. And I was just like, holy cow! And then yeah, it just started dawning on me. We were riding mud lakes. Blake Jorgensen took us up. We had a Braylorn there at the lodge, and we were up on this roasted up, way up above in the Alpine, just trying to eat some food and gather something. He just kept rocking this hill climb, and watch him go up these ruts, and just like it's just this hovering torso, the bike's going back.
What
forth,
degree
bang.
wide does it film?
It's just so yeah, like this was the realization between this and then our buddy Fredlin, I remember too, BMXer would just be like, what do I need suspension for? I've got 18 inches of trowel right here. Like, what do I need suspend? Being pissed off having to work on mountain bike. Like, what is this? Best in the business, but and so that was like, well, shit, let's mount the camera on the rider, because like just think about it, like the same on a snowmobile or any of these things, you see them blasting through the bikes all over the place, downhill racers, but the torso just hovers
floating
down the line.
on.
Yeah. Well, everything else.
So it's like a backpack with a.
Yeah, I took one of those.
An arm to the side.
Yeah, it was like a 6-point style harness. It's Swedish design, I think, for that you'd hang a camera. It takes the weight of the gimbal and that, so to save your back.
Yeah.
And it had a bolt pattern, so we just removed that, and I built an aluminum plate that went inside it to really hug the body.
Yeah.
And then the week before leaving, my buddies at the tire shop there in Squamish had helped me bend some DOM into this. We call it the Hangman, and so yeah, it was basically a boom off a backpack that the camera would have a 270-degree view all the way around, even more, from shoulder all the way around to shoulder. And I met this dude on Instagram through another friend who was riding the same Sur-On, these electric dirt bikes that we bought from Luna Cycle Stuff and had shipped to Hawaii. So we didn't even know what that was gonna. Had to build that when we got there. Had to build had it lined up that he'd take me up to his shop, same crazy shop as mine, like just what batshit crazy up above Waimea, Pupukea, and then like he's had a parrot there, like just that was hanging around, like grab your tools, and like this whole lipo where he built all his own batteries for his electric bike, like built his own controller. The thing was like Hunter hopped on it, and he's like, that's like riding my 400 and up these banks, like riding on it. The thing would just stand. That's what, with electric, like a flick of the throttle at any speed and it would just be stand up.
Yeah.
And so he just had this wild guy all the while, there's a keg, there's the tools, there's the welding torch, and then there's like 3D printer and all this. So it's just so fun. I got to hang out with this dude for a couple days up, and he helped me weld this chromoly tube frame, ultra lightweight compared to this heavy steel that I was using before, and had a nice natural spring. Is half-inch tubing for aircraft.
So the camera totally floated.
The camera, then we had this this cable isolator, and then of course. So then it was all wireless video and control feed to Darren, and so there's the riding track, there's the filming track that wove in and out of it, and then there's the camera operator road that sometimes we get way too far, where there'd be land masses between, and we'd lose video signal and feed, so we ended up having to build this giant antenna. I built this put this antenna way up on 25, 30 feet of pipe up above,
so you get a clean signal.
Just so you get a clean signal.
Where you're riding.
And then so then it comes down. You need a spotter. Okay, at this mark with the double tape, now I need to accelerate to get up to this one, or now I need to slow down. And so it was so stressful doing that when the riders are all performing at their peak, and the camera like pulling focus, and while he's on the e-bike, he doesn't know what's going on with the camera, but he knows where he has to be to catch it's so cool. It's
crazy.
Yeah. So it's just neat to be able to be involved in those sort of things and work with the best in the field.
Yeah, and it's fun, right?
And
fun,
just
fun
like be a
project
part of
challenges.
it. And, it's really neat.
What about the was it GoPros you had in a roundabout?
Yeah, that was weird. It's like a
then
John Woo kind of
beside the berm as the rider went by to get the kind of a Matrix 3D look.
That was the hope and wish. Yeah, it was just having them stacked, and just the fact that you could have like 10 or 15 or 20, of these Zeiss lens cameras, but it turns out they were digital clocks inside, so they weren't synchronized when you got the shot, but it ended up helping the whole overall sort of creative of that one, where his action cam was meant to be cartoony. And
so as the rider went by, you swept the arm with the rounded cameras into the roost.
Follow him around the berm. Yeah, so as he sprayed, you could wipe this array of cameras in following one sort of on a pivoting, and when you took those single shots, the idea, the concept was that you would John would sort of blast through, have the dirt moving and follow him, and then exit out of the berm.
Totally Matrix style. Super
fun stuff. Between that and the radio controlled, curving cable cam is what we called it, but it was a monorail. And
what about when Tommy G did the video, Tommy Jesus, and he walked on water?
That was my.
How did you make that happen?
That was a
sick video.
It just seemed like it gets more and more ridiculous. Like you go in, you sit in on these meetings of like, how could we do this? And then it's like, hey, do you think you could, this little lake in the mountains of Lenzerheide, could you, submersible, how would we make a bridge underwater? And it's like, it seems like it's a simple task, but then really,
did you ride on it too?
Yeah.
The way rode on water,
and it actually kind of turned more into like Mario Brother, where you'd like hop on something and it would start to sink until you hop onto the next. Because once something is under the surface, and surrounded by water, it's a whole different game. There's one thing to get something to float on water, another thing to get it to just sit level in the water, but once it's underwater, it's its own animal. It's just kind of
floating around.
So it has to have a bit of air, but it has to be and it's like boggy. We're trying to put weights down and anchor the thing underwater, and then we had to, because it's white. We use these. I don't know if you ever saw that. What is it? JOB or whatever. John O'Brien, the surf dude down, and they would have the floating dock basically that would curl with the waves. It's just segments, these blocks, half-meter cubes that you'd link together, and so you could run and like acid drop into waves, and so that instead of paddling in, it's just this floating dock system that could move with the waves. And it's actually based out of Quebec. I think it's a Canadian invention.
Yeah.
So we looked that up. Turns out they had a warehouse in France. They sent a whole, whack load. So we built this 40-meter bridge across the water, but it sat 8 inches out of the, so then we had to figure out how to get that underwater. Each of those cubes, like one of them could hold me up, let alone fucking 200 of them.
Yeah.
They could hold a transport up.
Well, it looked like he was riding across water.
So cool.
It worked.
I think I spent like 2,000 Swiss dollar, whatever, Lenzerheide dollar on rubber outdoor carpet. They had a big roll. And just like, yeah, keep going 40 meters. Like, really? Like, this is like 1,000, but just to have this carpet so we can make it black, to, have the white plastic blocks literally
under the water,
millimeters under the surface of the water. But then also by flipping and putting the carpet down and the rubber side up, rubber on rubber when it's wet is quite grippy. So
yeah,
I think that helped Thomas's confidence too. He's not a fan of riding over the water. He's like, what was his quote? He's like, Jesus did a lot of things, not only water. He's like, could we do something else? Like, why are we doing that? I don't like this.
Looked awesome.
Yeah.
What about the drift car with Steve?
Yeah, that was a funny one I made with my friend Matt Dixon. He helped me come.
What happened there?
We needed like, it was like that Colin Furze like motorcycle engine on a, like just thinking fire and flame and wheel burnouts and stuff like that. And it's like, well, actually, like that would be sick to make, but at the same time, it's pretty dangerous and maybe not out of the wheelhouse. But it's like, are we really gonna make a 200cc mobility chair, or let's go electric? And so then trying to find a motor that could actually make the wheels burn out. We were trying starter motors and stuff like that, but they're just blowing up because they're just on, right? Starter motors just on, but tons of power and torque. But the computer and those things, the computers in medical equipment is so, you can't mess with it. Like, it's designed to be safe.
Yeah.
Right? It's medical equipment. So you can't go in and just play with the computers and things. So I ended up at, I think it's Lee's Electronics and down here in Vancouver, and met this young guy that took the time to listen to me and heard what I needed to make. I need this thing to do burnouts and basically bypass the computer. And so he helped me with these like relays and stops and drew it all out for me. And I was like, okay, I can figure this out. And essentially the concept was the drift or the defensive driving cars or the police cars when they do police training, where they have casters outside on hydraulics, and they'll just have you drive the circuit, and then at random times they drop the hydraulics and basically take the weight off the car, and the car just waiting on the casters, and the back end swings out. And how do you correct? So defensive driving like that. So that was the plan, was these mobility carts are a front frame and a rear frame. The rear frame is the motor and the drive wheels, and it's just a single pivot with like a bungee thing at the top. So that's the suspension, is like wagga wagga wagga. And the front frame is attached there, has the steering rack and then the batteries and all that bullshit or whatever. And so the idea was that we put a pedal, we attached a steel bar on the back frame, ran it up and through the floor of at the front, but then dropped two casters at the back of the front frame. So essentially you'd step on this pedal, it would lift the drive wheels up because you're pressing on a lever at the front, and then the weight would sit on the casters, and all of a sudden the wheels are still spinning and it would look like it's drifting. And it was fun, but got up to 48 volts or something like that. Like the thing would actually do like wheelies, pull wheelies. They got the Aggie hopped on it at the premiere for the movie, and Stevie was like, no, he's like, don't let anyone ride. I don't want people to know how easy it was to drift. And I think Aggie like just crashed into the stage. It was just like, the way that I made it, I used the original lever, but basically it was like a tremolo switch on a guitar. Like when you have those switches that makes it like, wah, 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 wah. And all that does is just stack on effects.
Yeah.
And so it's a way to stack on the batteries. So you pull the lever and it would open and power one relay and let 12 volts through. And then you'd click the next and it would open the next relay and let another 12. So 24 volt, then 36, and then 48. But I like didn't want it to catch on fire. Like what happens if Stevie's on this thing, or it starts on fire, some shit like that or whatever. It's like, oh my God. So the kill switch, you'd hit the kill switch and that would just reverse the relay. And it would the power would break the ground. So it was a really neat, simple, it really opened my eyes to some electronics. But Aggie, of course, hops on this thing, just, the lever and the thing's just up against the stage where was it, at the Commodore or something like that? It was just like the wheels just like, I'm like, oh, I came and found it. Everything was so hot. Like all the wires were melted. I like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Crazy.
Pretty wild. So just stuff like that. It was just really fun they're just long nights of trying to work through that stuff.
Yeah. What was the project with a rotating room where
that was some friends
organized a room
Kevin and Craig
on end.
It was
a video ad, or wasn't it? Or?
Yeah, it was an ad. It was actually for the lottery, BC Lottery Commission, where they about gambling addiction. And having this guy having his world
turn upside down,
spin out of control, and he pulls the plug and snaps back to reality. So they needed a room like this that could rotate 90 degrees, and it was just, like Kevin coming over. We would just at night, you're in the shop, just hanging out shop time. I was working on, what I had going on, and he was just there just to come and hang out and sort of work on some rigging, trying to figure out. And so of course we're shooting ideas back and forth, and then that was on a Friday night, and then Saturday night we built the model on this sort of design that I had talked him into, and then by Sunday he's like asking me to get my father, a professional mechanical engineer, to sign off on it. I'm like, I sent him drawings on like graph paper where like 1 centimeter equals 6 inches of like this 12 by 8 by 10 foot deep room that would rotate 90 degrees, and these we built custom laminate like beams, like just by ripping plywood in 5-inch strips, 8 foot long, and building, wedges or, out of a 2x10 on the right radius. It needed to be a 12-foot square would fit inside a 17-foot circle perfectly. And so it was like, okay, 17-foot diameter circle, draw the radius, cut these biscuits out of 2x10 or 2x12, and then start gluing and laminating strips of plywood to it till we had these giant, huge circular rockers, and then a raised 2-foot ceiling and a drop 2-foot, raised 2-foot floor and a drop 2-foot ceiling. All of a sudden you have this 10 by 12 room centered that could rotate on.
Yeah,
and
so
then we had
the
axles,
guys-
just built a frame of cradles. Yeah, with like
The shot looks amazing. The guy,
It was so
the
neat.
guy's world turns upside down, and the things are.
well, we had So that was Sunday night. We were cutting material in a workspace, and then by Wednesday, I had 3 days to deliver the framework so that the guys could move in and make it look like a house.
No pressure. No pressure.
Oh, and that was really neat. And then COVID hit. It was just starting to get fired up with that.
Yeah.
And then it's like everything stopped.
What about back in the day when you lived with the legendary BMXer Ruben Alcantara, and Semenuk and Rita were there to film with this BMX legend in Spain?
That's right. It's the whole C3 crew. It's Ryan Howard.
And then Trek built a slopestyle bike for Ruben Alcantara.
Haruks and
he blew a shock. And
you
saved the day, didn't you?
Yeah, Haruks and Brett were down the previous year and filming with them for another Sony thing, and then we decided. So I know. So that was just it. I couldn't believe when he's like, you can CC down on emails like that, and like, okay, we'll meet you at the airport. Like, holy shit! And so next thing I know, I flew down a couple weeks ahead to work with the diggers and help build some of these, through the Olive Garden and all these different things for not too bad continuation series with C3. And so Ruben was our host with the most. I mean, he brought over a nice jug of nice olive oil. I think that's when I really embarrassed myself, is that when we moved house, I didn't bring that oil with me. I left any oil. It's a big no-no.
Big. Oh yeah.
But no, he's such a warm, and it's just the community that he's built there in Malaga, and his skate park down there, and he took it solids like the old stomping grounds, these ruins and places where he really honed and developed his own such a unique style. Like that is just, I still remember that Etnies when that video, and it's just like it blew me away at what was possible.
And what did he think of Reader and Semenuk on the mountain bikes?
I think Brett, so they had brought down with Trek, they brought him a slopestyle bike because we'd build this dirt bowl, basically a skate park, and like what he had at a concrete, but out of dirt. And he was always talking about wanting suspension and things on his BMX too. We talked a lot about that on that trip, which is really interesting now with fingers crossed. It's so cool what they're doing, these full suspension BMX. And so he wants to join in on this session. They built the slopestyle bike, and he's sending it on 26-inch wheels. It was so neat. And he ended up blowing a shock. I think he blew the damper or something like that on it. And it was fire. Everyone was going off R-Dog and Chemical, like all, everyone was just sending. And so he, I can see that he wants to be in there and be a part of that. And then Brandon's like, oh, well, he had a shock that he had swapped on the air can and swapped. So he went and got that. He had a shock, and it was kind of one work out of two. Rob Peter to pay Paul, use the damper for one and the air can from another, and is like trying to find stuff around. I found some like old climber rope.
These are Semenuk's old shocks?
Yeah, it was one of his shock that he'd swapped out already from Barcelona at La Poma, and then the shock goes on, and they both matched the same bike. And so it was just a matter of taking the good air can off Ruben's and putting it onto the good damper of Brandon's. But when you pull a swap shock, when a shock swaps, the air is blown past the air seals and is now sucking the shock close. And those guys run the highest pressure you can run in those shocks. And so when it's all this compressed air on the other side. And so first of all, I don't think to blow apart. Like, I've taken apart enough of those. Like, I know Crookshanks at Fluid Function, right? The Wizard, he's got like a full caged, this like hydraulic pump, like a car jack basically that our buddy Don built, and that would open the shock up to the point where you get to that equalizing, and then you're safe, and it's locked in. And so I'm trying to do this. I found some old chunk of rope that I like tied it to a tree, and I'm trying to take it, then boom, it blows off, and it must have blown one of the O-rings inside the air can. So when I was trying to put the air can onto the other shock, it kept leaking.
How many times did you
like 2, 3, 4, like to the point where I was just like, holy shit. Like, you're getting the sweats, and people are just like,
hope is down.
It's just like, well, no, it was still going off. I think it was like, I don't think, because we got it working, finally got it working, and ran in there. But it was just funny. Brandon hanging over my shoulder. He's like, yeah, I guess, you either know what you're doing or you're stubborn. Like that. It's like, well, yeah, I guess. I didn't know there's 2 O-rings there.
And then all of a sudden, Alcantara was riding with the boys.
And he got it, yeah. And certain, he was hanging out with Sergio Leos, like that, the BMXer there, fly, and So he's there with his dog. And we're hanging out at these. It was like a beautiful big mansion type thing. It was meant for like a film set, or it was like a demo thing for developing the land, like what you could build here. Like nothing was real. It's kind of that fake. It was like Arrested Development, but it had all been tagged. And they used to hang out and build quarter pipes concrete inside, where they do these double wall rides up in the corners. And so we got to just go in there with heavy equipment and just build big sick jumps and rake the glass. You think you're raking rocks, you're just trying to rake the glass out of the fucking jumps. And it's just this big playground, and it's just so fun to just hang out with all these guys on sunny days in Barcelona, or Malaga, Friangriel.
You're supposed to say Barcelona.
That's
You're
right.
supposed to purposely say with a lisp.
I think so.
Because there was a king, I think, with a lisp once.
Oh,
I think is what the
that's what
was.
the rumor I tell.
Barcelona.
I keep telling that same too.
Yeah.
That way everything is
so
normal.
wild. So cool.
It was fun.
Legends.
Those guys, they are,
And
it's just like, yeah. It's,
and then was that with Loft? Did Loft help build that?
Yeah, I think that was the culmination. I feel like
Loft Bike Parks.
Bike, yeah. Dustin and Austin, and I feel like it was during all that time. We had this beautiful little house above this olive garden, and they were talking about the work they've been doing at Cypress and wanting to like put on a bigger event there and actually start building for themselves and they've really taken it to the next level. Yeah, they're really creative and so skilled to watch those guys. I think all these builders you get to see doing their craft is so cool.
Yeah, so amazing. So very, very cool experience, not only wrenching but also building like crazy things like that, and doing some consulting on and teching and improv-ing, MacGyvering all these different camera mounts and grips and gimbals. And
funny, when we were shooting that Tommy G thing in Switzerland, and I like leaving a card for someone, Anthill had made these cards, the Fraser, the Swiss Army knife or whatever, and like handing that to
says it all.
Yeah, handing it to, they're like reading like Swiss Army, like yes.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, prove it.
So you've been doing some adventures with Margus Riga, photographer.
Yeah,
Margus Riga, who's known for being what do they call him? The Raptor.
Raptor Riga, the Chilcotin bad boy.
The Chilcotin bad boy.
Oh, that really.
And you've been going out with Kenny Smith and Margus and Hagen. That's what. Yeah. You just came back from an 8-day or 9-day tour.
Yeah,
carrying food and living with the grizzly bears and riding in the Chilcotins.
They're wild adventures. That one we did one early in the summer there with Ambrose. Weingart came along on that one, and it was Fox had really helped us out. Set us up. We had this really wild, like toughest one, that kind of one. We were like, oh my god, up through the shoe laps and Big Bar and back out towards Clinton, and we were actually going to leave. I think we were going to leave vehicles in Lytton, and we came across the Hurley. And we stopped, that lake or the not the Hurley.
There's still some snow up there.
Not not the Hurley. What's the one up to Lillooet there? The Den. What's that?
Spraylorn?
No, what's that highway called? The connector between Lillooet and Mount Currie.
Oh, the Duffy Lake.
Duffy Lakes Road. And you get to that big lake. It's Duffy Lake. Shit. And see the mushroom cloud of smoke. We're just there. We're like, holy shit! I guess this is happening. I think we ran into Alex Volokov there, and Sorgi were driving through, and it's like, is that Riga? Like pulled in, and they were going for Chilcotins too for Alex Stig, and so it was like, wow, yeah, like it's kind of sort of set in that these fires were gonna crush that trip. Yeah. And so breakfast the next morning, we met up with Chester, came down from Terrace or Kitimat there, and then. Those boys, they pulled out the Rolodex. Well, that's just it. It's like we were going to do a 5-day food drop at 5 days. And so then all of a sudden now with this new route that we're just going to go and play around and find a different route outside the borders of the park down below.
Yeah.
Then you pack. Now we have to pack all the food. So it's 10 days of food. I mean, that's your whole pack. It's a 35-liter pack. You have 35 packed with food. You gotta eat.
A sleeping bag and
that goes on your handlebar and stuff. But then like you just are so limited to what you have, so you just get used to just cut your food in half. First of all, my pack on that trip, my pack was so heavy. I think Mars has fluctuated 4 pounds. He's got all his camera gear and batteries and that, and his food. I think he ate 4 pounds.
Yeah, he only eats 1 meal a day.
Yeah, he won't eat before
until
like
dinner.
till dinner.
And he goes hard. He just hammers up the mountains.
After Riga ski,
Just
Rocket Riga. It was Rocket Riga on this last trip that we just did because we started pulling gear off the bikes and like just building out. And he had like 2 like turbo thrusters on the side. It just what Kenny's just like it just looks like just a tombstone. Just where I can't remember what he called it. It was pretty funny. It just this last one was 5 days of hiking to get into his zone. We got turned
it was
around.
8 days overall, though, right?
8 days overall, but it was 5, almost 6 days before we actually like
started doing some.
Yeah, like we like take your pedals off bushwhacking, like
serious. And sleeping with the grizzly bears. You have some grizzlies out there.
This last trip, I think we saw a bird and some poop. There's no animals went out there. I don't know what it was, but on the trip before, yeah, we stirred up. Had a mother and 2 like. Almost 2-year-olds, juveniles, that sort of thing, and you're out there with the bears. You just got to keep moving.
You're days and like days rotting from anywhere. Like there's no.
We definitely don't smell like food. That's for sure.
Yeah. You're a strong guy that smells on everything. Well, there's a saying called getting Riga. Getting Riga is when you get dragged in over your head, you get lost, and you are totally hopeless in where you.
That's so funny. It's so
funny. Then
you
have the time of your life. And find the most amazing,
because you just end up in a place that you wouldn't normally have ended up on your own. And it's funny you talked about that where it's like, what the fuck is getting Riga? He's like, man, like they've been doing it 20 years ago. You go like, no one knew it to do. You didn't know what was over there. It's like, what's over there? It's like you get tired of hanging around waiting for people to be a city. He's like, fuck it, I'm going over there.
Yeah.
And people would follow, and they're like, well, where the hell are we? Like, I don't know, man. Like you followed me. It's like
we're over here now.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be there when we get there.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, you guys dropped that one descent that I joined Margus and Kenny Smith at her camping trip at Luze de Verto.
We talked about you fondly up there.
That descent is awesome. Nice shale, gravel, just carvable and undulating rolls, and the size of it.
Yeah, 20. Yeah,
I don't know how many.
20. It is big. It is long, and it's tiered.
Yeah,
it's tiered.
You get cooking
sections.
Some of those sections.
Yeah,
and you're carving turns, and it just keeps going and going and going down.
We actually got that was our exit. We didn't really know that we were leaving right then, but then the wind picked up after getting to the one section enough that it was like hard to hold your line. Like a crosswind on that ridge is so strong that it would be pushing you when you have the pack and all that extra surface area. And it started to rain, and we're like, okay, we should probably we gotta listen to the mountains. We've done enough out there. We've been out there for 8 or 9 days at that point. It's like time to go. Okay, time to go, boys. You're out. And so we get down the bottom, hailstorm, gumball size hail.
I saw the photos. Huge.
It's been a long time since I've seen that, and it's so funny. Like Chester would laugh because before one hiker where we started to spit and we like set up the tarp, we all huddled under the tarp. He wasn't even under the tarp. He was just like he's like this pitiful. Like, what are we doing? And then of course we're in the heaviest rain. No tarp. No one pulls out the tarp. We just sit and take it. Like I'm just sitting, just the water dripping. I was like, oh. We had to start an emergency fire. We tried getting out, and by the time I stepped through the water that had doubled since Margus and the boys, I look back and here comes Ambrose, and it had doubled again. The water was collecting that whole. We were all for like 4 or 5 days. We were surrounded by like three big storms that were just always trying like closing in. We just sort of rode this eye, and then all of a sudden we hit the edge of it, and when the water collected, it raised the water so fast.
And you're trying to get back.
We're freezing.
Yeah.
We're freezing cold. We're soaked. So we tried drying out in the rain, and then
Margus is saying it doesn't have to be fun to be fun.
Well, that explains a lot.
Eh? Does that Margus in a T? And Kenny Smith
fun.
He goes, there's one rule in these trips. No complaining.
Oh, fuck. I think I fucking complained on the last
one.
Oh,
did you?
And he tried covering it up by like saying he's with me, that like, I wanted to camp too. Like he really just made a point of saying that a bunch of times.
How nice of him.
I think I used up my credit on that. Yeah. It was it's fun. That stuff changes you though. That's like,
for sure, those are adventures of a lifetime, right?
They really are.
You're in the middle of nowhere riding your bike and
thinking about your family.
Yeah.
I laugh. I say it's just
a long
we're just
time.
out, a bunch of guys out there, like on your own in a group
Yeah.
is what it feels like.
You're one man gang with
Yeah.
with another
Yeah,
gang,
yeah.
and another gang, and another gang.
You're on your own with friends.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I love it. Those are great adventures. The ones I've done with there are just insane. It's so beautiful, and like you say, you learn a lot about yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this last one too is really neat. I don't know how much I'm supposed to talk about. Pete Woji came up with this, so he's just a super young, fun.
Shredder on the skis
Shredder,
and
the biking.
Oh yeah,
He got
good cameraman too. We worked together.
he was like
Seattle.
shooting static while he had like a drone panning, and then he like followed out with 16 mil film. I don't know. It's really neat.
Wild man. So you've moved from Squamish. You had your mad shop there, and you and your wife and your baby boy have moved to Powell River, which is one of the stops of the BC bike race, and that's one of my favorite places to ride. Green carpeted forest and just ribbons of beautiful single track out there.
It was neat. It was the one town like that in BC that I had been to consistently for 10 years in a row. You know, like every time we were there with the race, even though you're 4 or 5 days in and absolutely splattered, it's like it was the same community every time. It was the same little orange and white tourism bowl that parked there, and the same old lady coming by with her dog, you know, or whatever, walking by. And my dad's cousin Chris Nightingale coming down to see, and Matt's family, one of my buddies who lives over there. It's just the same little town. And so when we were in a position that we could buy a house, you know, with two kids, we have a
beautiful place.
12-year-old lovely boy and a 2-year-old girl, same lady. So it was like, that's quite the spread. It's like, it's the same mother. It's got that going.
And you've got like double black diamond trails up above your house.
It's
and blues and
it's still, the mountain biking is still in its infancy there as well. Like the whole scene is still quite young, which is really, it's neat. It's fun.
Yeah.
And you can moto, like it's all moto and trials trail to begin with, any majority, and so as long as you're respectful,
shred friendly,
it's fun. Yeah. And again, so it feels like that same little town where I ran dogs, where it's more lakes than land and more trails than roads.
Yeah,
and,
that's awesome. So looking to the future, our immediate future here, you're going to the BC bike race in the interior now.
Yeah.
But
they're back to back. It's a gravel, and then basically it closes registration.
BC
Registration
bike
opens for a mountain
race.
bike. They're doing a gravel, a 5-day gravel race, and then a 6-day mountain bike right after. So it's actually gonna be the longest haul. It's gonna be like 13 days of pretty solid wrenching.
Wow! So you've been collecting parts and getting ready to
just trying to
set up a new shop.
Yeah.
And
now I'm thinking about it again.
Yeah.
And I'm puddling. I'm just melting.
Yeah, melting. It's gonna be
Topher.
a pull.
Let's go. No, Topher's got it. So that's gonna be exciting. That's in and around the lake there, and
how many riders
we're going,
this time, do you think?
It's
like 600, but it'd be
that
big.
They definitely are working within guidelines and comfort levels, and and that's why it was really neat when James sort of sent out that picture of the original race in 2007 of the whole crew, because it's so similar. It's the same sort of numbers as when we started, and it's like we were working out of a motorcycle trailer and cardboard boxes, and now we've gone from having the 5-ton Penske full build out, like let's go, like big biggest stocked bike shop in BC is it right now for a week, on a truck, mobile, like cranking out 1,000 repairs in 7 days, and some of the majors like frame and like just wild stuff, and so that's what I was laughing about too. Like I'm lucky if I do 2 or 3 bikes, because I'll pick up and do the wacky ones, the ones that take some puzzling,
creative MacGyvering.
Yeah, just to make happen. So we're back to that route again. So it's like
big breath before you go here. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I wish I was going to be there. I'm heading down to.
I'm excited, dude. You're going.
Rampage.
You're back on Rampage.
Riding with Hans Ray of video and
you did the
pink bike coverage.
The shred. What do they call that one? The bay. Slay Bay or something.
Slay the Bay with Hans Ray.
Slay the Bay with Hans Ray.
And we're gonna go ride with one of the band members from Rage Against the Machine. Ride with a bunch of kids doing wheelies up and down and manuals up and down the streets of San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna ride with some of the clunkers at the original repack downhill in Marin. So yeah,
Repack.
Otherwise, I would not miss the BC bike race this year. But,
you got to dump your hub in the creek at the river below.
Yes.
Let's do it steam.
Yeah. Totally.
No, you know what? You'll be missed, but we'll get you back there. But I'm excited. I'm excited that you got a good circuit going on.
Yeah, right. But the BC bike race is always fun, and they call it the ultimate single track experience, and it really is. So, wish you luck there.
Thanks.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having a word with us. I'm gonna wrap it up, but
we could just keep going. That's the funny thing is because like it was
so many stories. Well, we both talk a lot. And
you would like finish a night ride. Like I wouldn't be able to, but I'd be wrenching through the night. So you want a coffee? I would like get a text from Brett to coffee, cheeseburger. Like you just would show up. I'm like, what do you need? Like, oh god, it's like 2:33 in the morning. I'm like, what does he actually need at my house? No, I just thought maybe we could use a coffee.
Yeah, just random. Every now and then.
I love it.
Night owl. Dude, it's our custom here to have a dad joke before we sign out. If you got a joke for us?
If you do you have a dad joke? I am a dad joke. I am a dad joke.
We are dads.
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't know. I just when like you don't download music and you go to service for like 5 hours driving to Williams Lake or something like that, and you just have whatever's on your phone, and it's like Stephen Wright comedy clips or something. I have a pony or it's Was it I'm not afraid of heights. I'm afraid of widths.
Stephen Wright was so
yeah. You're wearing two different socks. Yeah, but to me they're the same because I go by thickness.
Those are good. I like his one. I'd like a map of the world. Life size.
Life size, yeah. Last summer I folded it. Sick, dude.
All those who believe in telekinesis, raise my hand. Awesome, brother. Nice to have a fun word with you, and great to hear those stories. Some mountain bike highlights on video, and thanks for saving the day for myself and so many people on bikes.
Oh, I love it.
To keep us riding and sharing the passion.
You guys inspire me to do it.
It's awesome.
It's it's a big fun family, so it's nice to feel part of that.
Right on.
Cheers.
Fraser Newton, everybody. Ow!
Love you, brother.
Love you, man.